Mortal Sins 2.0. Stop making these grammar mistakes too. So a fragment is an incomplete thought. Don't start a sentence with which unless it's a question. So read this sentence aloud. When I revise my work, I see many interesting ideas, which my audience will enjoy. If you think about that, which my audience will enjoy, is not a sentence. You wouldn't say it in real life, so don't write it. When I revise my work, I see many interesting ideas which my audience will enjoy. That's the fix. When do you breathe when reading this sentence? That is where your comma should go. If there's no pause for air, then there is no comma. While my professor read my essay aloud, I edited and revised it. I know you hear the pause there, but I'm going to read it again. While my professor read my essay aloud, I edited and revised it. That sentence is a dependent clause at the beginning and an independent clause at the end. The next one has switched those around, so it doesn't need a comma. I edited and revised my essay while my professor read it aloud. There's no pause, there's no comma. That first sentence has a pause right after aloud, but in the second one, there's no pause. Past participles. I've given lots of feedback on past participles, and I want to make sure you understand what I mean by that. If you're using I have gone, I have eaten, you're using the present perfect tense in English. The second verb there after have or has is your past participle. I have seen. You can't say I have saw. You have to use the past participle. I have gone. Not I have went, but I have gone. I have experienced. That ed at the end there it looks like a past tense verb, but it's really a past participle. You need to make sure that you know the difference between that and that you use it correctly. An easy way to go through your paper and double check is every time you have the word have or the word has or had, circle it. Go to the next word. If it's a verb, make sure that it's in the participle form. If it's not, you're okay. If you're saying I have 3 cars, you don't need to do that because you're talking about owning something, the possession. But when you're talking about the present perfect tense, something that happened in the past and might be going into the present, you need to make sure you're using the past participle. This is also a concern when you're using he was diagnosed. A lot of students right now are forgetting that ending D at the end. So that's the adjective form, ed ending. He was diagnosed. You can't just say he was diagnosed. It doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't actually mean anything. I was concerned about. You can't just say I was concerned, because concern in that case would be a noun, and what you're basically saying is I was a concern, and that means something very wildly different from I was concerned. So the ills of autofill and auto incorrect. I think we've all had this problem in the past, right? You text somebody, your phone corrects what you've said, and it does not go well. Now, here are some more places where autocorrect can really make your life miserable. Commonly confused words include these: weather and weather. The first weather is talking about storms or sunshine. The second one is whether or not you understand which weather to use, you still have to use it correctly. And they're completely different things. They're not interchangeable. Okay, so fix that. Allowed and allowed. They are said exactly the same way, but when I ask you to read something aloud, I'm asking you to do it in a loud voice, L-O-U-D. That's how you can remember. If you can substitute the word permitted, you need A-L-L-O-W. I permitted this. I allowed it. It's versus its. We've had this conversation, friends. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. It is my party, apostrophe needed. Its book was on its table means that that robot over there owns a book and put its book on its own table. That's a possessive. There and there. This mistake cannot continue, friends. Get rid of it. You know how to fix it. One of my favorites. So assess is an important word. And we use it a lot, especially if you're writing an annotated bibliography for me. Assess. Asses, unfortunately, are very, very different from assess. Assess. 4 S's total. 3 S's is something very, very different. To assess something is to determine the importance, size, value of something, or to assess a problem. You can assess damage. You can assess an article for its relevance, its importance. I do not know what you do with asses in an article. Don't think they're related. Definitely and defiantly, completely different words. You cannot defiantly agree with me because it doesn't make sense. You're challenging something, you're resisting it. So if I say, I defiantly agree with you, that doesn't really make sense. Don't be obstinate, don't resist me, don't be stubborn, just be definite. Torture and tutor. Okay, you may feel like it's torture to go to a tutor, but they are completely different words. Use them. This is a big one in a lot of writing, especially when you're writing about something that's happening in the past tense. A lot of people are using would instead of a past tense verb. So you might say, oh, when I was a kid, I would go to my grandma's house and I would eat her cookies and she would bake them for me. But what you're really trying to say is, as a child, I went to my grandmother's house who baked cookies for me and they were chocolate chip. And they were delicious, right? But you don't want to say they would be the best cookies. They would, because what the would actually means is a subjunctive tense. So if I were you, I would go. I would love to help you, but I can't. I would, but I think I've got something else going on that day. I would love to go out on a date with you, but I have to wash my hair that night. Wonderful for making excuses, not so great for making a past tense verb. Now, strong verb choice is something I've often said to students, like, hey, your verbs are not as strong as they should be. So look at your paper. Are you writing the word get or is too often? Go through and circle. Every time the word get is there, figure out what's coming right after it and see if there's a better verb for it. If you can use one word where you would be using 2 or 3 with get or is and are, use the one word. Remember that shorter words are often better, but fewer words are often better too. Why say I am for it when you can say I support it? There's a very different feel in your writing when you say I support something instead of I am for it. It's just not as academic or grown-up sounding as it would be if you used your grown-up verbs. Now, one resource I think you might really like is called VisuWords. Now you can put your verb phrase in there, go up to where the VisuWords, go to visuwords.com and type in the word get over, the phrase get over, and then you'll have all of these options of ways to replace the word get over with, or the phrase get over with something else. You can put any word you want in there and you can see what comes up.